This is Tony Higbee with the Tom Keifer Band, and you are tuned into the Straus Project.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, there's music everywhere. It's so important, and I could sit here and talk music with Tony Higbee all day, but we're going to let him go back to the bus and get a little rest. So thank you so much.
I'm fine.
Well, let's keep going.
I got nothing to do. I got nothing to do for another hour.
Let's keep going, man. All right. I'll keep going. I'll sit here all day with you. All right.
Is this about to be turned into a two-parter?
I think it already has.
Yeah,
All
right.
Ain't that the way life goes? Funny how nobody knows. Everything never shows. Ain't that the way life goes?
When you have your free time in Nashville or outside of Nashville, what would you be doing if it wasn't holding a guitar?
Playing golf.
Really?
I golf. Actually, me and my drummer Jared in Tom's band, we keep our golf clubs under the bus when the weather's nice. We often make the joke that that it's our golf tour, and we just play guitar during our downtime from golf.
Okay, so I'm gonna make the connection here. So, are you still playing with Damon Johnson?
Yeah, I'm playing tonight here.
That's three, by the way. That's the third band we're talking about, right?
Oh,
Tom
yeah,
Keifer,
yeah.
right? The Eastside Gamblers, and then you play with Damon Johnson.
Yeah. So literally yesterday, I rehearsed with Damon's band. Then had bus call last night. I play here tonight. I play in Dubuque at the Q Casino tomorrow night, and then we go home. I get home Saturday, right around lunchtime. Eat, shower, change, and then hop in with Damon and go to Huntsville, Alabama, and play that night. And then come home and have a few days off, and then go back out and do a couple more with Tom, and then work some gambler rehearsals for Timo Kazi in there too.
It's so funny how all roads seem to lead back to Alice Cooper.
Yeah, right?
I mean, I can't believe how many people we talk to that are like, oh, yeah, well, I was in Alice Cooper's band, or
I was never in Alice Cooper's band.
But I think you've played with a bunch of people who have been.
I actually played with Alice earlier this year. That was a bucket list of bucket list moments. I think there's actually even a little footage of it on YouTube. But I played with Damon's band in Nashville at this place called the Basement East, which holds maybe 300-400 people. Cool room. And we were playing, it was Damon's band, and then the band after us was Bisto Blanco, which is Chuck Garrett's band in Calico. Well, as it turns out, Alice was in town working on a new record with Bob Ezrin because Bob lives in Nashville, and Alice came out to the show. Alice and Larry Mullen Jr. from U2. Just
hanging out.
I walk backstage and I'm like, holy shit, that's Larry Mullen Jr. and Alice Cooper, but I knew Alice was coming. I didn't know Larry was coming. I didn't know Larry was there. He played on Alice's new record.
Wow.
Which a lot of people don't realize.
I didn't know that.
Larry's on the new Alice Cooper record. He's all over it. So at the end of the night, surprise for the crowd, although by the time we went on, I think almost the entire audience knew he was there. Alice comes out and I got to play. I'm 18 and school's out, and my inner 12-year-old with a tennis racket, rocking out in his bedroom was losing his fucking mind.
So cool.
It was so cool. And I just remember I didn't set the world on fire, but I remember Damon kind of looking over. This is his move. I'll be playing with Damon, and it's a little looser thing in a cool sense. It's a little more off the cuff at times. And Damon will just look over and just nod at me, take a solo. That's just all that means. So I'm up there and I'm playing, and he looks over and doing I'm 18. He looks over and he gives me the nod, and I just went into a lead and just pulled something out of my ass and got done. And Alice goes in and he looks over at me and he goes, yeah. And I'm like, fuck yes.
Slow motion.
Absolutely. Yeah, the skies opened up. I'm like, yes, Alice Cooper approves. Let's make a tea time. Let's do this.
So have you played golf with us?
I have not. That's actually on my bucket list. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
So I keep, there's been threats of us, maybe doing a show with them here and there over the years. It's never come to fruition. But Alice, if you watch this, let's make a tea time. Get to Nashville. I know a couple places. We'll go do this. It's going to be great. You're going to whip my ass. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to enjoy every second of it. At the end of the day, I try to do as much as I can while still being able to do it to the best of my ability. I work really hard, you try to build on some momentum as a working musician. And, playing with Tom has been a really wonderful experience. Playing with my own band has been a really wonderful, gratifying experience. Getting to play with my brother and, Josh DuToit on lead guitar too. Cody on bass, my brother. Josh DuToit on lead guitar and Chris Brewer on drums. And they're immensely talented guys. I'm very fortunate that I get to play with those guys. I'm very fortunate I get to play with the Tom Keifer Band. I'm very fortunate I get to play with the Damon Johnson Band, when time permits. And, that's kind of the same situation for Damon too. I mean, because the guy's, he's doing Black Star Riders, he's doing Thin Lizzy, but, he's a songwriter and, he's got this amazing catalog of stuff that he's done and this amazing history of stuff, being in Alice's band. I mean, he had a brief dalliance in Damn Yankees.
I actually read that he recorded a Damn Yankees album that was not released.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So
you have not heard it?
Never heard a peep.
I'd love to hear that.
It's probably great. But then he's got all these other bands, Slave to the System, and Red Halo, and
Brother Kane.
Well, yeah, clearly, that's the no-brainer, and and I remember seeing Brother Kane in Peoria, Illinois, at the Madison Theater on the Seeds tour, and they were just on fire. They were so good, that's the whole thing. It's just trying to juggle that, make sure I have some time for myself, make sure I'm giving my wife the time that she deserves, and she's really supportive, and I'm really, really lucky to have found her. We've been together now for 14 years, and she's really super understanding, and it is. It's just, I'm babbling now. It's a lot of work, but it's the right kind of work. I'd much rather be busy and feel as fortunate that I've been able to do the stuff I've got to do than to be sitting at home bored and wondering what if I'd have done this or what if I'd have went ahead and done that or tried this or tried that. So my plate is absolutely full though, but it's the good kind of full.
Well, we feel very fortunate that our paths have crossed. So thank you so much for taking the time. All right, your East Side Gamblers is a little more punk, a little more aggressive than let's say like Tom, who's a little more bluesy based.
It depends, I mean, the East Side Gamblers are definitely spun from the influences of all the guys in the band, and I hear bits of everything on there. But at the end of the day, the essence of that band is really kind of a 2-guitar 70s kind of a hard rock vibe. And I mean that anywhere spanning from AC/DC to Thin Lizzy to UFO to all points in between. You know what I mean? We do the harmony guitar solo thing,
which I love
quite a bit. Yeah, I do too. If you're gonna have 2 guitar players in the band, you also take advantage of it. And but at the same time, then we'll turn around and do a song like "Get It High," which from the very moment that song was conceived, and it's on our second EP, All In. I literally, before I had the lyrics written, we used to jokingly refer to that as the AC/DC song, because it just was like, well, this clearly is heading this direction. Let's not fuck it up. Let's just write it like it's supposed to be written, and it came together like that, So it's nothing wrong with being derivative as long as you're figuring out a way to put your own stamp on it in the process.
Oh, very good. Very good. Because I think you do that very well with, like, you're sitting there playing Cinderella stuff that people know, I mean, in and out. I mean, how many people have listened to those records the last 35 years?
Yeah.
And every note. And if you miss a note, people are going to see.
Yeah.
Right? So how much pressure do you put on yourself to nail it just like it sounds? Or do you say, I'm going to do it my way because I kind of own this at this point?
I tell you what. Those songs are so signature and they're so well written and so well played to begin with that I tend to take caution with not going overboard with that, with the embellishment. You know what I mean? I think for me, a lot of these songs I've been playing since day one with Tom. I learned them at one point. I learned them note for note. I was really particular about that. And then over time, things do start to change and morph just a little bit here and there, and you start to get your own feel for it and your own thing. And as you become more comfortable with it, there's probably things that if I went back and listened to it, I'm playing this a little different, I'm playing that a little bit different. As long as it doesn't have a negative impact on the song or the way that people want to hear them. Because the last thing I want to do is walk out and just shit all over a great song.
Right.
Trying to put my stamp on it. Nobody needs that. Sometimes the song already has a stamp. Just fucking put the stamp out there and show it to them. It's good.
Right.
The side note of that was, the only, and this was per Tom, we went back in for the deluxe edition to re-record Nobody's Fool, and Tom did a duet of that with Lizzie, which still gives me goosebumps when I listen to those two sing together. It's crazy. He actually, I played Jeff's guitar solo all up to that point. It's a great solo, and when we went in to record that, Tom said, I want you to write your own solo. And I was like, man, that song is, 30 years old. People have been hearing it the same way for so long. Are you sure? He said, absolutely. And it was a little nerve-wracking, but it was a huge compliment that he trusted me that much to take something that I think was so ingrained in a lot of people's heads and try to do something of my own with it. And it was really flattering. And so I, just kind of did my thing with it. And I think it turned out okay. And I haven't gotten any flack from anybody at the shows yet playing it that way this year. So, I think it's all went pretty
Well, I
good.
guess we'll have to see it later, right?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you can throw stuff at me.
Okay,
It's all good.
sounds good. So what else? So when you're doing these old songs and you've got the arrangements, I know that Tom is meticulous about the practice and arranging everything just so.
Yeah.
Is it, hey, I want you to do it this, this, and this, or do you say, how about this? And then he says, tweak this and this. Is it more collaborative, or is it more like, hey?
Are you talking about when we're writing?
Yeah, you're dynamic when you're doing that. When you've got that freestyle kind of stuff, is it more like, hey, come up with it on your own? Like you said, hey, write your own solo. Or does he say, I'm thinking, maybe something like this, or it goes in this direction?
On occasion, and even for maybe a thing or two or that, he would. He would say, hey, I'm here maybe something along this line or something in this vein of so-and-so or that or this kind of a feel. And then he just, would kind of let me run with it. And if it was, he'd be like, and if it was, yeah, there you go, So, and I remember when we were tracking that, the word was rude. He goes, just play something really rude. I was like, all right. So we went for rude. But, that's the thing. He's really good at giving a descriptor and I kind of know exactly what he means.
That's what I find fascinating, and what I love to talk about is that point where you can say a word like rude and have somebody go, oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and you rip it out and he goes, yes, that's exactly what I was looking for,
Yeah.
rude. How do you find that person to work with? Because you can talk music with a bunch of people, and I can say, yeah, play something rude, and you can play something, and I can go, well, no, that's not what I had in mind at all.
As far as musically, we like a lot of the same stuff. We're into a lot of the same influences, and but we're also honest enough to be able to look at each other and go, I know you like that, but I think that sucks. Vice versa. As far as we can disagree on stuff and laugh about it.
Right. You don't go
home.
home and take it personally.
No, not at all. It's cool.
So what else? What else is new with you? What else is going on with you in your music world?
Well, that new East Side Gamblers EP, it's going to be called The Big Machine. We got it. It's mixed. It's mastered. We got the album artwork done. We got everything done. We're looking at a couple of options for releasing it right now. We're going to try to figure out how to press that bad boy on vinyl, because I have a real problem with vinyl these days.
Oh, let's talk about
as
vinyl.
An addiction.
Yeah. Oh,
so
well, I mean, you and me both. I actually was just gifted a bunch of vinyl, so now my addiction is in full. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Enjoy
now.
that.
Yeah, thanks. So I have a nice little setup, and I'm going and spending all of my extra money on vinyl. But some of the newer vinyl doesn't really sound as good as the older vinyl. Why is that?
Well, I know that there's a lot of stuff out there that they're just kind of pressing willy-nilly that was never mastered initially for vinyl. It was just, it was made, it was compressed in a brick wall manner for digital format. So that just, when you turned it on, it was just loud and just knock your head off. the people that are going back and doing a good job of remastering something correctly for the vinyl, you're going to hear a big difference. But then if they're just pulling it off the original digital files and just compressing it down so that the needle won't fly out of the grooves, it's going to be, it's going to be a little lackluster. But there are some people that are doing it right. You just got to kind of be on the lookout for it. But honestly, I go and look. That's one of my favorite things to do, traveling on the road with Tom, especially if the weather's too shitty to golf. I wind up out looking for used records because, you can really find some great stuff. And the thing I find about vinyl, I know in the 80s, there was this big, the big rebel against vinyl. Cassettes are already out there, but then CDs came in and,
Right.
And, everybody's like, listen, CDs, they're so much clearer. There's no
portable.
There's no hissing. There's no popping. Everything's so accurate. You can hear all this detail and blah, 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 blah. That's not entirely untrue. There's a lot to be said about that. There's also a weird period in there in like the early to mid 80s when they really kind of hadn't figured out the analog to digital conversion thing. Mm-hmm. And you would put on a CD and it would sound this big. Versus you would listen to the album version of it and there's all the bottom end and there's all the bass and there's all this thickness. But vinyl was in no way in fashion at that time. So, the other thing about vinyl that I've found after growing up with it, being away from it for really a couple decades, lugging my vinyl around without a functioning turntable from college all the way until like a year or two ago, is that when you put a record on and you listen to it, like say you take a classic record like a Highway to Hell or any Zeppelin record or anything like that you're used to listening to, even at some sort of a remastered CD format. The immediate thing, I wouldn't say it was an immediate thing I noticed, but it's something I realized after a few weeks of it. It's like, why is this so much more pleasing for me to listen to right now? I realized that there's a little bit of hissing and popping here and there on some of these old records and stuff like that. But what is it about it that I'm enjoying? What makes me every morning want to wake up before I do anything else? It's become my morning ritual. Make my first cup of coffee and sit down and just take in a record before I even start my day. And what it is if you sit back and you listen to it, not even to loud volume, and you just take the music in, it's so much more dynamic. The lows are lower, the highs are higher, the quiet passages, there's just more dynamic across the whole thing. And it's not as fatiguing to my ears as when you're listening to a CD and everything's just like this.
I feel like it comes out more when you're sitting around listening to it. You don't have to have it cranked, to 11, let's say.
Absolutely.
You can actually have a conversation in the room and still enjoy everything around you. I feel like I don't know how else to describe it any better, but it's there's a warmth there.
I mean, me and my wife, who, my wife's younger than me by 7 years, and she is just far enough behind the vinyl arc that she missed quite a bit more of it even than I did. Her dad had some records when she was real little and stuff like that, but that's turned into one of our favorite things, is just sitting together on a day off or after we've both had a long day at night and put on a record, no television, just music in the background, just listen to music and just talking. And we're able to have a great conversation over it, and it's there and it's just setting the mood, and it's a totally different experience. But as is anything, you get a technology to go so far and then you go back and you listen to the old way of doing it. And no matter how good you've got that new technology dialed in, you go back and listen to that old school way of doing it and you say to yourself, yeah, that's still got something.
All right, one more, because I want to end on something uplifting, positive, fun. Give me a band that right now you want to just grab somebody by the lapels and say, listen to these guys.
There's one band that I cannot, for the life of me, fucking figure out how they weren't huge and didn't blow up in the States. And it's this band out of London that came out in the 90s called the Wild Hearts.
Okay.
Most people have no idea who the Wild Hearts are in the States, sadly. I was in a band called Bombshell Crush in the early 2000s. I was already a huge fan by this point. We were fortunate enough to get to open for them in Atlanta, Georgia, in a little club called the Earl. And they were over there warming up, doing a few shows in clubs in the States before they went out and opened for the Darkness, right when the Darkness blew up. The whole backstory behind that was the Wild Hearts had a hearty following in Europe, and the Darkness couldn't get arrested, and they took the Darkness out to let them open for them in Europe. So the Darkness returned the favor in the States. And it's this amalgamation of riff changes like old Metallica with hooks like Cheap Trick and all points in between, and just some of the influences like Jason and the Scorchers and the Sex Pistols that are sprinkled in there, and just the attitude of it all. And, I hear so much stuff when I hear their music, but at the end of the day, there are so many good hooks in a lot of those songs that you can make 3 amazing songs out of them. And I've never been able to understand how they didn't make that crossover into the States. And every once in a while, I'll wear a Wild Hearts t-shirt on stage, and somebody will be like, Wild Hearts, how do you know about them? Actually, the last time it happened to me, I wasn't even playing. I was at that club I was telling you about, the Basement East, where I got to jam with Cooper, watching Mr. Big. And I was backstage saying hi to Billy, and Paul Gilbert looks across the Wild Hearts.
Nice.
Great band, and turns out he's a huge Wild Hearts fan. So, but yeah, that's the band that just, to me, maybe the most criminally underrated band of the last 20 years. There's been some really great rock that's come out of Europe, though, that I don't think has gotten its due in the States. The Wild Hearts, yes, the Helicopters out of Stockholm. I mean, they got a little more generated in the States, but not much, not like they should have. The Backyard Babies, their album Total 13, just one of the meanest, nastiest rock records made in the entire decade of the 2000s, just smoking from top to bottom. And, a little closer to home, up north of the border, a couple of other great bands. In the power pop front, you got Sloan, just unbelievable. Their Navy Blues album from the mid '90s is just punchy, power pop, just right there laying on a platter, just perfect stuff. Big Wreck, one of the most melodic killer hard rock bands you'll ever hear. The guy sings like a young Chris Cornell meets Robert Plant. He plays guitar like Steve Morse. It's unreal. Just one of the most unbelievable bands you'll ever hear. His name's Ian Thornley. And then lastly, just as far as just sheer attitude and balls out, Danko Jones, which I know Danko just got some press in the States finally because he sang on that song Black Rose with Volbeat.
Okay.
And got some traction with that. And Danko Jones is down in the States. They were doing some shows opening for Volbeat. But man, some of those records, Born a Lion, We Sweat Blood, just all the way up to the new stuff, Wildcat. Just slamming, stomping rock and roll. There's so much of it out there. You just got to go look for it.
In closing, I hope that everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's feeling well. I hope you guys are feeling well. I hope Tom and you and everybody are healthy.
Yeah. Everybody's doing great. We're hanging in there. We're having fun. When I took this gig, I really realistically thought, because I didn't know Tom that well yet, when we put the band together, I thought, okay, he's got the solo record coming out. We'll go out. We'll do, a few months, and that, because that's just kind of the way that scene's always worked. When guys that are in established bands go out and, do something else like that, it has an expiration date and they go back and do whatever it was they were doing. I didn't expect it to grow into what it's grown into, but I feel incredibly grateful and fortunate that it has. Met a lot of amazing people on the way, gotten a lot of amazing opportunities as a result. And at the end of the day, I'm playing a band with a bunch of people that I love, with Tom and Savannah and Kendra and Billy and Jared. And just that whole crew, Corey. Everybody's amazing. If you can put that many, I know that bus looks big, but if you can put that many people on the bus and nobody kills each other after a few weeks, you're doing good. And we've been doing that now for 5 years. So
it's awesome. It's so much fun. And thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. That's Tony Higbee of Tom Keifer's Band, Damon Johnson's Band, and the Eastside Gamblers.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Sweet.